name is Megan Brooks. Oh, hi, I'm Megan Brooks, and I'm excited to present to you today about the power of youth with MADD. I started working with Mothers Against Drunk Driving when I started my Gold Award about preventing drunk driving and impaired driving in my community. So, for our intro, we're going to start off with MADD, just about the history of MADD. So they were founded in 1980, and they're currently the largest nonprofit working to end impaired driving. And they were founded by a mother whose daughter was killed by a drunk driver. And by their research has showed, but getting today's youth off to a good start, they're taking a giant step forward by fulfilling their vision as a nation to end drunk driving altogether. So we're focusing on underage drinking and underage substance usage or proper substance usage. So, to start us off with our first substance, alcohol. So, ethyl alcohol or ethanol is the intoxicating ingredient. It is found in alcoholic beverages like beers, wines, liquors. It is also in toothpaste, fruits, and mints. Alcohol is a depressant, so it will slow down your whole body functions, and as alcohol levels get higher, breathing and heart rate will slow down, and they can potentially even stop. So the amount of alcohol you've had or the intoxication is measured in alcohol by volumes, or ABV for short. Alcohol poisoning can occur when someone has so much alcohol that the bloodstream areas that control the brain can that basic life support functions like the breathing, heart rate are shutting down. This is going to happen due to binge drinking, and symptoms of alcohol overdose or alcohol poisoning are mental confusion, trouble breathing, a seizure, or difficulty remaining unconscious. And what happens when people get alcohol poisoning or they have an overdose is you need to call 911 right away, because this can lead to permanent brain damage or death. So if you are in ever a situation where you suspect someone might be overdosing, you must call 911. Do not let them sleep it off, because they might need life-saving care. And you should put them in what is called the recovery position, where the person is lying down and the person's arm closest to you straight above the head, and straighten the leg closest to you, bend the other leg at the knee, and bring the other arm straight across the chest. And you roll them towards you, and you tilt their head to maintain airway, and you tuck their hand underneath the cheek to keep their head tilted. And so you make sure they're not choking, and you can make sure they're not seizing and they have air. And so for our second substance, we have cannabis. So cannabis has many names. It is called weed, pot, or marijuana. So cannabis is actually the word that refers to the dried flower leaves themselves that actually contain THC. THC is a scientific name that is shortened for a very long word that I'm not going to say because I won't say it right. But THC is what creates the actual high feeling itself. And when you have marijuana, you can have it in many forms, and you can become intoxicated from any of it and from any amount, from smoking, eating, or vaping. And you can ingest them from joints, pipes, buds, whatever, a wax. And even though it has become legal in some states, it is still illegal in all states for anyone under 21 to use cannabis recreationally. Despite it being a natural substance, underage cannabis is still very dangerous. Even though California and Colorado have passed laws to legalize recreational cannabis, it is not safe underage. It can cause permanent IQ loss, depression, anxiety, suicide ideation, or psychotic episodes when you use it underage. So, for our third substance we're going to be talking about today, we're talking about prescription drugs. The last several years, we mostly talked about the dangers of alcohol, and then we started talking about cannabis as it rose in popularity and led states to change their laws to make it more easily available. But now there's been an epidemic concerning prescription drug overdose. And really, the key takeaways are never take a prescription medication that is for someone else, or never share your own. Never take more than is prescribed by your doctor, and always carefully follow the instructions for your medications that were given to you by a pharmacist, a doctor, or that were on the bottle. Never mix medications with alcohol or any other drugs, and never ride with someone who you suspect is impaired. And if you have any questions or concerns whatsoever about a medicine you have been prescribed, always ask your doctor or a pharmacist, because you don't want to accidentally overdose or do something wrong that could lead you to be harmed. So now we're going to talk about the safe driving practices and steps you can take. So for the risks of driving, it's very present. Even though driving is very fun, it's very exciting getting behind the wheel for the first time and that freedom you can have. Very exciting for myself. I'm getting my license soon, but it's important that you're very educated and you're aware of the statistics about driving. Teenagers have a very high crash rate when compared to adults, and these are the fatal crashes, not the small injury ones, the death crashes. And 24% of drivers aged 15 to 20 were killed in fatal motor vehicle crashes had been drinking. And even the presence of teen or young adult passengers increases the risk of crashing when you are an unsupervised teen driver. And when you add more teens or young adult passengers, your risk of crashing goes up. So, how can you, as a teen driver, lower the risk, or just as a driver in general, lower the risk? So, there's 5 steps in general to lower the risk. You can always wear your seatbelt, because no matter where you sit, you are always at risk. And a second one is eyes on the road, hands on the wheel. Always being focused and not using your phone or doing your makeup while driving. Third one is to limit the number of passengers, because as I mentioned earlier, the additional amount of passengers that are teenagers or young adults, the more likely you are to crash. And following the speed limit. Speed was a factor in 27% of fatal crashes that involved teenagers, drivers of passenger vehicles. And never ride with an impaired driver. 26% of youth have reported they are willing to drive with a driver who has been drinking. It isn't worth the risk if you can find yourself someone who's willing to take you home safely and unimpaired. It is illegal in all states to drink under the age of 21, and no driver should ever operate a vehicle impaired. So, how can we get home safe once we're impaired? There's 3 key steps. You can message, ask, and report. You can message by call or texting your parent, a guardian, sibling, friend, roommate, whoever to pick you up. You might get in trouble, but it's way better to be safe than sorry. You can find a ride home with a friend who you know wasn't drinking or used drugs, or you are sure has never used drugs or ever drank, and you can ride home with them. But if you're older than 18, you can also use a rideshare app like Lyft or Uber to get home safely. And then the third one, report. You can Call 911 to report a friend who is driving impaired. If you cannot convince them to not drive impaired, this is a great way to stop them from harming themselves or other people on the road. It is really important to never drive with an impaired driver. You cannot do anything to help them from a passenger seat. Anything. Never ride with someone who has had any amount of any substances. So, to end on that kind of grim note, that concludes our presentation. So, thank you all so much for listening and letting me share with you. I hope you feel more empowered to make smart and safer decisions and having the more knowledge to never make a dangerous mistake or put yourself in a situation where you might have to make a dangerous decision. Thank you.